While statewide races often get all the spotlights, congressional races are also on the ballot this primary season. These elections help determine who will represent voters in Washington. Dr. Megan Leonard, an associate professor in the Department of Politics and Government at Illinois State University, has been with us all morning. And of course, we appreciate your time, Dr. Leonard. So how can races for Congress affect not just Illinois, but the balance of power at the national level?
Yeah, both the House and the Senate have very, very slim Republican majorities right now. And the election in November is almost certain to at least flip one of the houses to the Democrats, if not both, though it's a much harder road for Democrats to flip the Senate. Because these majorities are so slim, it's not going to take that many changes in House membership to change who controls the House and therefore who controls the speakership and who controls how the House of Representatives responds to the president. So the elections can be or will be essential at the national level for who has power in Congress.
Here in Illinois, a Senate seat is open for the first time in almost 30 years, with Dick Durbin stepping down. It's being reported that it's one of the most expensive Senate races in the country. Krishnamurthy raised more than $25 million, and Juliana Stratton has Pritzker backing her campaign, who we know is a billionaire. What role would you say the big money approach plays in a campaign of this magnitude?
There is a lot of money being spent. You can't turn on your television without seeing an ad for Senate. And Raj, who is running, has had or has been able to raise the most money. And that is noticeable in sort of the length of time that Krishnamurthy has been able to show ads. So you've seen ads for Krishnamurthy for the last few months, whereas particularly Juliana Stratton and a little bit of Robin Kelly, those advertisements you're starting to see more and more as the primary got closer. But money can have just a really big effect, especially in a seat that is open for the first time, like you said, in almost 30 years. The main thing is getting your name out to the voters. And even though Krishnamurthy and Kelly are both in the House, then Stratton is the lieutenant governor. These are not necessarily household names like, say, Durbin was. And so being able to connect with the Democratic Party base and let them know who you are, that unfortunately costs a lot of money. And we're seeing the result of that just in the massive amount of advertisement, but also, feet on the ground, mailers, door knockers, all of these things happening. And there's more money being spent in the Democratic primary under the assumption that Illinois is likely to elect the Democrat for Senate in November, though, of course, nothing is guaranteed.
The two leading contenders on the Republican side both have never run for office. What does this say about the optimism coming from Republicans? Do you think they have a strong chance of flipping this seat?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The Republican Party, with their sort of anti-establishment movement, we see more and more folks who have never been in office running for these types of seats. Usually, right, historically, senators are somebody who might have been a governor first or might have been in the House of Representatives. We don't often see the jump from not being in office to Senate. But the Republican Party seems really open to that in this sort of movement that they're in. I don't think necessarily that the lack of experience is going to hurt any of them in the primary. I'm not sure the lack of experience is going to hurt them in the fall in the general election either. It's just I think really difficult to see anybody having the ability to flip the seat from the Democrats. Of course, we have had Republican senators in Illinois, and to some extent fairly recently, prior to Senator Duckworth being in office. But it does seem that most prognosticators think that the Senate seat will stay in the control of the Democrats.
Now, overall, as we prepare for the November elections, how important is this race and what's at stake here?
these races, I think, are essential for the parties to say, this is what we want to represent in November. This is what we want to show in November. And this is what we want to say the Illinois Democratic or the Illinois Republican Party is. And those messages then translate to the races in the fall. So who becomes the actual candidates in the fall is essential for how the election outcomes might go.